Hello everyone and welcome to Merlin's Manor. Today I'm going to be talking about my top 10 solo board games. And I've been wanting to do this video for a little while now, but I also wanted to get an opportunity to play Batman The Dark Knight Returns to see if it was worthy to be on this list. And while I didn't quite make the list, you can check out the review later on this week to see why. And it's still a game that I enjoyed, but not top 10 worthy. Now, we're talking about top 10 solo games. I'm not going to be talking about all games that can be played solo. Cooperative games, most of those can be played solo, but I did not include those style on this list. I wanted to include games that had a solo mode or was strictly solo. And so that's kind of a criteria that I had going into this. So let's go ahead and get into this top 10 list. And the first game that I want to mention, my number 10, is Everdell. Now, Everdell, I really enjoy this multiplayer, and in fact, it's higher up on my list for a multiplayer game. But as far as the solo mode is concerned, I feel like Rugwort is still pretty fun to go up against, but not the best solo system. And so while it's a game I really enjoy multiplayer and still enjoy a lot as far as solo goes, didn't quite hit the top of the list for the reason that Rugwort, while I enjoy it, wasn't the best solo implementation out of all the games on this list. Still very enjoyable, which is why it makes my top 10 list. So that was my number 10. Number 9 is Red Rising. Red Rising is a very fun game solo. In fact, I rate it higher for a solo game than I would for a multiplayer game. There is a lot of luck that goes into the cards that you get dealt, which kind of makes things a little bit kind of iffy as far as multiplayer goes, as well as some powers are better than others. But as far as a solo game goes, I really enjoy this game solo. It has a great Otama system. All the Stonemaier games have a great Otama. This one, I enjoy the Otama. In fact, I would recommend even using the Otama when you're playing a two-player game, as it helps to cycle through the deck a little bit more. I find that it's a good challenge as far as when you play solo, being able to try, and they have different levels of difficulty that you can choose from. And so the fact that you can vary the levels there to a good degree. I think there's like 6 different levels of difficulty. I can't remember, it's been a little while, but lots of difference there that you can do as you get better and better at the game. When you're going through this game, you are trying to get different cards that go well together to be able to score points at the end of the game. You're going to be playing down cards that give you benefits during the game, and you kind of have this battle between whether you want to play a card for its benefit, but chance not getting it back into your hand, or hold it into your hand for that final game scoring. And so there's a little bit of press your luck sometimes when you try and put that card out, hoping you'll be able to get it back. There's a lot of randomness to whether Otama will take that from you. And so, very fun game to play, especially solo. Red Rising. Number 8 on my list is Calico. What I really like about Calico Solo is that you have these different scenarios. There's 10 different scenarios that you start out with, that you have to try to get a certain amount of points. You have to get some of them require you score certain cats. Some of you require that you get certain goals. And so you're going to have, and they kind of ramp up in difficulty as you go along. And so the first ones are fairly easy to accomplish, and they get harder and harder and harder as you go through. And I find the puzzle that you have to solve in order to win each scenario is a lot of fun for the solo. You can use those solo scenarios. Well, they're just scenarios. You can use the multiplayer as well, although I prefer just to play the regular game multiplayer and leave the scenarios for solo play. Next game on my list, at number 7, is Wingspan. Now, Wingspan is one of my favorite games, and it has a great Otama for being able to play solo. I really enjoy how the Otama works. It's easy to run, and it gives a good, solid opponent to go up against. Scores pretty well, and yeah, so it's a challenge. And there's 3 different modes of difficulty that go along with Wingspan as well. And basically, it's going to be how much the Otama is going to score is the main difference, especially in the base game. I think that's the only difference in the base game, is how much the Otama is going to score from easy, medium, or hard. And so you got a little bit of variability there as far as skill level goes. And the Otama really makes it feel like it's very similar to playing multiplayer, as far as you never know what the action they're going to take, and if you are going to need to take a food before Otama goes, or if you're going to need to take a bird card before Otama goes, just in case that they take it. Also gives you abilities to get your pink powers to do something, just like in multiplayer, and so it really feels like multiplayer when you're only playing against the Otama. And so I enjoyed that aspect, that you can still feel like you're playing a multiplayer game of Wingspan, even though it's solo. Next game on my list is Isle of Cats, if I can get it up here. Now, Isle of Cats is another game I really enjoy multiplayer, but its solo mode is really solid as well, and it offers this interesting puzzle as you're playing, as to you're going up against an opponent called your sister. And the sister scores points based off of what you do on your board. You're going to have different cards that are going to be flipped at the beginning of the game that are going to be basically like bonus cards, except for they are cards that give sister points. And it may be something like, if you have a certain number of cats on your board, sister's going to get this many points. Or if you have, for every cat touching the edge or something like that. It's going to be similar to bonus cards that you would get, but these are bonus cards that score sister points for things that are on your board. And so you have this constant back and forth between, do I want to play this card that's going to give sister points or not, and try and juggle that as far as getting your points and giving her points. As well as you've got a different card that's going to be flipped each round as far as which color cats are going to be giving sister the most points. You're going to start out with flipping let's say you flip the first card, it's going to red. That means every red cat that you play on your board is going to give sister 5 points. Next round, you're going to flip a card that's going to give sister 4 points for every color of that card, then 3, then 2, then 1. So at the very beginning, you know which cats to try to avoid the most, because by the end of the game, they're going to give her 5 points per cat. Whereas it's kind of a mystery as to which ones are going to be the really cheap ones that you're going to get out. Until the very end, you're going to realize which ones are the really cheap ones. And so you've got a little bit of a mystery there going as far as which ones you can play near the beginning, and you're slowly getting more and more information as to which cats are better for you to play to give her less points. And so I really like the puzzle that goes along with trying to figure out what's best for you, while at the same time not giving sister the points that are going to allow sister to win the game. And so that is Isle of Cats, my number 6. At number 5 is Dinogenics. And I put this one at number 5. It's another one I really enjoy multiplayer, but I also really enjoy it solo, because the solo game has 10 different scenarios that each give you a different puzzle to solve as far as what you're going to do. And so it's not like you're just playing multiplayer solo, but you have your own different challenges to complete. And sometimes you're going to start with a board state that's halfway done, and you're going to have to try and work around different problems that have been created by that board. Sometimes you're going to have a limited amount of time to accomplish a certain goal. There's just different puzzles for each of the 10 solo scenarios, and they're very interesting to play through. I've played through each of them once, and I'm going to go back and play through at some point again in the future. There's maybe not a whole bunch of replayability as far as the solo mode goes, as far as its 10 scenarios, but that's enough to keep me entertained for at least a few run-throughs. So that's like 20, 30 games. Easily can be gotten out of the solo mode before it starts to feel like you've done it all, probably. Like I said, I've only done it one playthrough of each one, so that's 10 games, and I'm still itching for another playthrough of 10 games, and so I can at least get 20 games out of it, maybe more, because the puzzle is very interesting to solve each one. And so that is Dinogenics, my number 5. Now, number 4 is Spirit Island. And Spirit Island is a cooperative game, but it also has its own dedicated solo mode. Now, some people play it solo, doing it two-handed, cooperative, basically the same as there'd be 2 players, but you can also just as easily play with one board and one spirit and play it solo. And so it fits the criteria for this, and I actually prefer to play it the straight solo mode rather than the two-handed cooperative version, because I find there's just too much to figure out and deal with. I find I get a lot of kind of AP as I try to play this one solo with two different spirits. I really enjoyed kind of the puzzle of trying to figure out how to get rid of all the invaders and keep and win the game. You're not going to be able to get rid of all of them at once, and you kind of have to mitigate where they're going to build versus what you're going to destroy and different things like that. It's a very fun puzzle to figure out. I enjoy it cooperatively, but I also enjoy it. I think I especially enjoy it solo because there's just so much variability that you can add to this game, especially if you get the expansions. But even without the expansions, you have different adversaries. You have different scenarios that you can do, that when you're playing multiplayer, you really need to get people who've played it a good bit before you start adding those things in. But if you're playing it solo, you have a lot more opportunity to learn how to play the game and to get more advanced and play all those different adversaries and everything. Get Branch and Claw, you're going to be adding events, all kinds of other fun stuff that really, multiplayer, you'd want to have people that play this game regularly with you before you can get to that point where you can add a lot of that stuff in. And so playing it solo, I get to enjoy all those different things very quickly and easily because I've gotten to get a good number of playthroughs with it, and I've gotten to learn the ropes and can bring them all in. Really enjoy that. That's why it's my number 4. At number 3, I have Under Falling Skies, and this is a solo-only game. It's very reminiscent of Space Invaders or Galaga, where you've got these spaceship UFOs coming down, descending upon Earth, getting ready to destroy it. You have the mothership that's coming down as well, and you're rolling dice, and you're assigning those dice to different places to give yourself a benefit, but also wherever you assign that dice, and that all the ships that are in that column are going to move that many spaces. And so while you may want a 6 is very powerful for yourself to get the benefit there, maybe it's increasing 6 on the research track, or maybe it's getting 6 energy, or different other things that you can do with that. It's good for you, but it also moves them down 6, and so you want to be careful about where you put that and kind of mitigate which way you're going to do that. And so there's a decent bit of luck involved, but the luck is mitigated by you get to choose where you get to place the dice. You also get to re-roll every time you place certain 2 of the dice that are in your set, and so you can kind of decide, okay, do I like the dice I have out now? I'll wait. If I like the dice, I'll wait until I place some of them, and then place this to get a re-roll. If I don't like any of the dice, I'll place this one immediately so that I can go ahead and get that re-roll. And so there's a lot of ways you can mitigate your luck. It's a puzzle to solve each time, and there's a lot of content in this very small box. There's a campaign that has all different types of, a bunch of different types of cities that you're going to play with, different people to help you out along the way. There's lots and lots of content that then you can play later as a campaign, or you can play it as standalones with all the different content. There's also 3 cities that you can play even before you get into the campaign to warm you up. Very easy to learn this game as well. The instructions kind of walk you through things. You kind of add a little bit at a time for the first 3 games so you're not overwhelmed. Really enjoy Under Falling Skies, one of my favorite solo games. In fact, it's my second favorite solo-only game on this list. The next game on my list is Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition, and specifically Ares Expedition. I enjoy both Ares Expedition and the original Terraforming Mars. I prefer the original Terraforming Mars for multiplayer, but I prefer Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition for solo play. I feel it's more streamlined, it's a quicker game, as well as I just really kind of enjoy the way it plays when it comes to solo. There's less things you have to be concerned with that don't relate to solo, because you're not putting cities out on the board, you're not putting greeneries out, there's not the area control type thing going on, which you don't really need in solo. That's what makes the multiplayer very interesting, but it's just added material that you don't really need for a solo game, which is why I prefer Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition when it comes to solo. It's a very streamlined, quicker version that has a lot of fun packed in there. And now for my number 1 solo game. It's a solo-only game, and that is Final Girl. This is a game that has a whole bunch of extras to it. You start out with a core box and 1 feature film, and you can play the game. But then you can buy all kinds of different other feature films, which gives you so much extra content, because then you can mix and match all the different feature films. There's, I think, 5 in the original set, and then the Series 2 is going to have another 5, if I remember that correctly. And so there's a lot of variability that comes with all that, because you have 5 different villains, you have 10 different girls, actually 11, because there's also a small vignette that adds the birds, and then another final girl. And so you have all these different people you can play as, all these different people you're playing against that you can mix and match, events that get mixed and matched depending on the location that you're playing with, because you have different locations for each one. And so you've got 5 different locations that you can kind of mix and match in there. And so it's just all kinds of different opportunities for extra content you can put together. And I'm excited that Series 2 is going to be here, hopefully December, maybe January, and then I can get into that and add all that extra content. Now, this game has a lot of luck involved to it, which if you don't like to have a lot of luck in your games, that might be a problem for you. But there's also a lot of ways that you mitigate your luck through the game. There are different cards that you can purchase in order to be able to change dice rolls or do different things. And so I really enjoy a lot of the ability to mitigate that luck that comes through there. But it's a game that can go bad on you really quick. It's a game you can also win really, really easily if you kind of get the things to go in right. It just really depends on what comes up and how well you're able to mitigate the bad things that come up. But I really enjoy it as a great challenge. It's a very challenging game, especially when you get a lot of that bad luck coming your way and you have to figure out what you can do with it. And so that's why it's my #1 game. It's the replayability with all the different content that you can mix together, all the different content that's going to come out that can get mixed together as well later. There's just so much you can do, and I just really enjoy the puzzle of trying to figure out how you can take out the bad guy without dying yourself. And so this is my top 10 solo board game experiences. I enjoy all of these very much. I recommend all of these games. And so a few of them I have reviews on my channel. You can go check those out. A few of them I have playthroughs already. I know I have Under Falling Skies I have a playthrough. I have Wingspan has a playthrough. Terraforming Mars has a playthrough. And Final Girl, I've got 3 playthroughs for that one. And so you can check out all those on my channel. And I encourage you to like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe. And I'll catch you in the next one.